What is good, Spuds? This is your main man, Jesse Whitedeer, and thank you for joining me on the Needless Potatoes podcast. Shout outs to all of you moms out there. Happy early Mother's Day, everybody. Shout outs to all the moms listening, all the dads, brothers, sisters, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, you are making some safe but fun plans with your mom. Hopefully, you can send her some DoorDash. You can send her a present through Amazon. Maybe you can video chat while still, practicing social distancing and, being responsible. I know that she would definitely enjoy that. But something you may enjoy with your mom or with anyone else is this interview with Henry Cline. Henry Cline is an author. He's a musician. He's just a whole lot of things, but we talk about his books, we talk about his music. All of that is available on henrycline.com, henrycline.com, or you can go to his Facebook page, check that out. But yeah, definitely hit him up if you want a copy of any of his books that we talk about or any of the music. So thank you so much for joining me. And before I forget, definitely huge shout outs to my main man, Nate Turner. Nate is a blacksmith, and he crafted me a beautiful knife that I'll be posting pictures of. And you can find him on Ansuj Forge. That's ANSUZFORGE. Ansuj Forge. So hit him up on Instagram, hit him up on Facebook, and buy a knife for him. Buy a knife for your mom. Buy a knife for yourself. Buy a knife for everybody. And then immediately go over to henrycline.com, pick up a book from him, pick up some music. Why wouldn't you? But thanks again, everybody, for joining me. Shout outs to all you essential workers. Shout outs to everyone in quarantine. Shout outs to everybody. We love you all, and you guys have a great Friday. Thank you so much.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Needless Potatoes podcast. For all you spuds out there, this is your host, as always, the impeccable Jesse Whitedeer, and I'm joined by a very special guest. He's an author, a musician, an ex-Power Ranger. I don't know if that last part's true, but he is Henry Cline. Henry, how you doing?
Pretty good, Jesse. How are you? Or do I address you by potato?
Anything. You can even call me asshole, because that's what my mom.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
She only does that. She only did that up until I was 5. So no, I'm just kidding. Okay. No, she's great. Both my parents are great. No, So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because you are a local author. Is that true? Is there any truth to that?
That is correct. I've lived in Mustang, Oklahoma all my life, which is a smaller part of Oklahoma City, like southwest Oklahoma City, basically. And yeah, I've been here all my life and been writing for quite a while. I'm currently 25 years old as this is being recorded.
Okay, awesome, man. So, what's the good and bad about Mustang? What's the positives and negatives?
Oh man, to be completely honest with you, not that I was trying to be conceited or anything, but when I first got published, I was like, well, hey, probably my high school would want to, maybe I could go there and talk to some kids and be like, hey, here's how you go about getting published, or like, here's kind of, what I did. And, then I call them up and they're just like, we really wouldn't want that to happen. We don't really have guesses much anymore. And I was like, really? And, they were just like, no, we don't do that. And it's just kind of strange because when I was in Spanish class, I only took 2 years of it, but I do enjoy it. But there was a guy that they had come out that was like a major ladies' man. So it was like a singer, and I won't say his name, and I can't quite remember it. But yeah, he just like he went to high schools and like sang for girls, and then they all went and hugged him after the show, and then he would move on to the next school. And I was like, so I'm not planning on doing any of that. So I thought it would be okay, but no, they weren't very accepting. I mean, all the teachers I ever had, care and they're super kind and supportive, but something about like school security, they don't really want me to go there for some reason.
Okay, well that's a little off-putting. I don't know how it would feel as a parent or as a student if some Latin singer just came and was like, "Hey, I'm going to sing for all these high school age girls, and then they're going to hug me."
Yeah,
yeah.
We're going to take all these photos, and some people can come backstage if they want to, and I'm like, oh,
Ooh, that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it went that crazy, but it was
okay.
It was very odd. It was just
that is really weird. Mustang, what are you doing up there? That's
yeah.
You won't have Henry there, but you'll have a Latin singer guy. Okay.
Yeah, he was talented. I mean,
okay.
I'll give him that. But.
Well, I mean, more to your point, there's those like power team guys or the Christian powerlifter guys or whatever. They used to come to my elementary school. Team Impact, I think. And they would they would like roll up frying pans and break bats and do handstands on like a stack of weights. So they call that talent. So
sure.
So I think Mustang is really stretching the word talent there. So
very nice. Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know. Just dumped all over your high school. I'm sorry about that. But
no. Yeah, I won't share this with them. But I mean, I respect that school and everything, and the administration that was there when I was there. And like I said, all my teachers were super nice. But I don't know. I got on the phone with a certain secretary that I wasn't very familiar with or anything, and she might have been new, but she was just like, no, I won't go too much about it, but anyway, it was supposedly a security concern. Like they were just like, we don't really have like anybody come on campus.
Oh, okay. Well, that. Okay. Well, the Latin superstars we're doing all appearances out there, but but kind of transitioning. So before we got on air or on the Skype machine, you mentioned that you had written 4 books. Now. I was under the knowledge of 2 because I think we spoke, I want to say probably close to a year ago about doing a show at Vintage. And then I think that might have been right around the time the Platinum Briefcase came out. Was that true?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the 4 titles of the books?
Sure. So, I mean, to go a little deeper, so I've been writing since I was 7, and just as soon as I could even make any letters make any sense, or that I knew the alphabet and everything, I was just scribbling up little stories and all that kind of stuff. So that was fun. But a long time ago, like not that long, but when I was in 9th grade, there was I self-published a book called Development Code Red, and oh, sorry.
Are you still there?
Yeah, sorry. It just sounded like there were like rocks or something.
That's weird. Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So back then I self-published a book called Development Code Red. So a lot of people get kind of confused because they're like, well, that was your first book. And I'm like, kind of, yeah. I mean, like, it didn't sell super well. And, I was 15 years old and, so... and it was just self-published, so like I paid for everything to happen. But anyway, so the way I want people to look at me going forward, because I also when I was 20, I self-published Too Close for Comfort the first time around when it came out, because it's a young adult murder mystery, and I just had a lot of faith in it, and I wasn't really, the publishing process sucks kind of, so. But I had faith in it, so I just went ahead and self-published, and then I did enough sales on a self-publishing basis that when I reached out to a publisher with the Platinum Briefcase, they picked me up for the Platinum Briefcase. So to some people, I would say that is like the first book that I want people to acknowledge going forward, I guess. So I don't know if development code red stuff is now just confusing. But anyway, so when I was 22, I got picked up by Sans Press out of Ontario, Canada, and they published Platinum Briefcase. And then they said, hey, well, you had a book that was self-published. How about we just pick that one up? So then they picked up Too Close for Comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me that in Canadian markets, young adult fiction is just explosive, And so they were like, is there a sequel to Too Close for Comfort? So then that's close enough. And then There's a Catch was the fourth and latest book that I published, but I actually just went ahead and did self-publishing for that one because my current publisher right now, they're just a lot more interested in the Too Close for Comfort, Close Enough series. So yeah, so my 4 books that are out right now in chronological order are The Platinum Briefcase, Too Close for Comfort, and Close Enough, and then There's a Catch.
Okay, so to kind of backtrack a little bit, what is appealing about writing to you, I guess, about writing a young adult murder mystery? Like, why that genre of book?
Sure. So really, like, that would have been like the last thing I would have ever written. Really, like, I mean, because back in when I was in 5th grade or 11 years old was when I first even attempted to write a book, or like an actual, like, kind of serious one. And it was just like a random war action adventure kind of book, and obviously doesn't have any rhyme or reason now. So really what I loved writing was maybe like a little more like Tom Clancy-esque when I was growing up. But what happened was I had an agent when I was 16 or 17, shortly after I self-published Development Code Red. And she was, there was another book I had written, and, I won't go into that because it's not published or anything, but I do plan to rework it one day. But she picked me up based on that book. And then she just said, like, all of my contacts that I have are young adult. Like, that's what they want, is young adult books. So, and growing up around that time, Twilight and Harry Potter and, other series like that, those were the, hot topics. And I was just like, man, like, as soon as she said young adult, that's what I thought of. And I was like, what's something young adult that maybe isn't done as often or can be a little more grounded in reality? Because, fantasy writers amaze me, and how they can just put themselves in that world and create it and, expose it to everybody else, and that people can be so taken aback by reading and getting lost in it. And I'm just like, I can't do that. So like fantasy or tween kind of things, or vampires or werewolves and stuff, I was just not interested. So I was like, how about a murder mystery? Like, maybe I can just try that out. And so, when I was growing up, my dad used to have 48 Hours Mystery on, or some of those shows, I don't know, I guess you'd call them like murder porn now, I guess, or some people call it.
Right.
But those kind of shows. And, I kind of took like a few different stories that they were talking about on a few different episodes. And I think, subconsciously my brain was like, hey, what if, this happened? And then I was like, oh. And so, and at the time I had this huge, oh my gosh, why can't I think of the word? There was a lot of inspiration at the time because my agent was saying, like, hey, if you write a young adult book, I'll get it published for you, like, overnight, basically. And obviously it didn't work out that way, but that was like a big selling point to me. And I think my brain just clicked, like, under pressure, and was just like, here's this story idea, write it, So that's kind of how I dove into that from the get-go.
Okay, so basically we're going from like Tom Clancy-esque writing into like an adult murder mystery, and you kind of wanted to do a different take on the young adult because of course we have wizards and we have vampires and werewolves and all that fantasy stuff. And I think that's I'm a little bit older than you. So I remembered when Twilight first came out, and we were at like this kind of mediocre pep rally where they were telling a bunch of high school kids the history of the high school, and I went to Van Nuys High School, which it was fun. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it wasn't good. It wasn't bad. I made some good friends there, but for a young brown man that was heavily into heavy metal and Marilyn Manson, a lot of the good old boys, as they say, they didn't really.
There you go.
Yeah, they didn't really appreciate that too much. So, but no, it was fine. They're great. But I remembered we were at this pep rally, and there was this girl, and she was reading the first book, and in an effort to impress her, I said, "Hey, I read that book too." And then I was kind of trying to like BS my way through it, and then she was like, "Oh well, whenever Edward did this and he first appeared," and she's going into specifics. I was just like, "Yeah, that's Team Jacob," because that's kind of all I knew two names. So, but yeah, it was it was a little dumb story, but I remembered when Harry Potter came out. And and they were having like book burnings for it, and kids were getting kicked out of school because they were reading it, and all kinds of So it's like you can read you can read the Old Testament, that's fine, but don't you dare read those wizard books out there. So.
No, definitely.
Yeah. How dare you?
Yeah. That was definitely a thing here in Mustang too. Not getting kicked out of school per se, but there were definitely some parents that they didn't want you coming over to their son or daughter's house because it's like, oh, you read those books, or even when I think the Golden Compass like movie was coming out, and I think there was a line in it where they were like, we have to kill God, but like they're not talking about any God that is normally worshipped. It's just like it's whatever is specific to that story, and people flipped about that too, and they were like, do not watch that movie, don't read the book, burn that book if you find it. So, all that good stuff. Oklahoma.
Yeah, all that great stuff. To me, it's interesting that the Almighty Lord can be threatened with a young adult fantasy book.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like okay. Anyways, but okay. Yeah, transition.
Okay.
Don't want to lose those sponsors from Christian Media. So
yeah.
No, they won't return my emails. So no. Yeah, I know. I guess I wasn't the one for them. But
I'll email them for you too.
Oh, I appreciate that. Mustang, Oklahoma's own Henry Cline says, answer Jesse's emails. Yeah. But so starting with the first book, can you, and really no spoilers or anything, but just kind of, can you give us an overlay of the four books kind of in chronological order?
Sure. So Platinum Briefcase is kind of those, like I really enjoyed the, so for Too Close for Comfort and, I'll stop. But, so the Platinum Briefcase, it is a 1970s gangster epic. And although it has younger characters, I guess it's defined under a classification called new adult, which is where it's basically like it's young adult, but it's rated R, or that it could be a little more graphic and intense. So, and obviously with like 1970s gangster, you're going to kind of have to do that. But we follow an 18-year-old named Victor Perez, and he is pretty much just kind of he lived the good life when he was first born, and like his parents were pretty well off and everything, but it's kind of like historical fiction where then there was kind of the crash in Detroit with the motor industry and everything, and there was a lot of racial tension and stuff like that kind of drove his parents out of their lines of business, or just other crazy things that were happening. And so then they kind of end up being like dirt poor because their finances weren't managed very well. And we start off with Victor in this life of just, kind of being tormented by an alcoholic father who just feels like a loser and that he's lost everything for his family. And then he has a semi-alcoholic mother who also just kind of wants to live in the past in her mind, and it's kind of delirious. So, and he doesn't have any friends, and just that very lonely. He's a very lonely guy and very impressionable. And the story of the Platinum Briefcase is mainly that he just is befriended by the son of a mob boss, and and then from then on, it's just kind of the story of their friendship and what they end up doing together and everything. And the other catch to everything is that he's actually, his father was friends with the police chief of Detroit, and that police chief, with it being set in like the late 70s, there's not much of a like child abuse, scope or anything, or that they're not really looking into that kind of stuff. But instead, like, the police chief is also friends with Victor and kind of tries to lead him towards, hey, well, once you're out of high school, maybe we can get you on the police force and go from there. And so it's kind of this tug of war between the chief of police trying to keep Victor as like a good kid, and Danny Poncello trying to bring Victor over into a life of crime.
Mm-hmm. So kind of like a power struggle.
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So then, and the next book is Too Close for Comfort, correct?
Yes, Too Close for Comfort. I wanted to say about the Platinum Briefcase too. It's a 3-year time span, which isn't like that long, but it's 3 years of Victor kind of growing into this gang and all that. But yes. So anyway, but the next book, yes, Too Close for Comfort. So originally written when I was 20 and self-published, but then it got picked up again when I was in my almost 23. But it follows Jack Sampson, and he lives in the small town of Stanton, Michigan, which don't try to look that up. I made it up. And basically it's just this real small town, and everybody kind of knows each other. And, the graduating class is like around maybe like 80 people, and it's real small, and they're all about to graduate high school. But Jack's best friend, like 2 weeks before graduation, just goes ahead and decides to kill himself with a pistol. And everyone in town is just like, hey, this guy was like, the quarterback, and he was like the most popular guy in school, and he was always happy and happy-go-lucky and fun and, a great guy. And Jack Sampson, on the other hand, is kind of more of like a goth, quiet kid, So they were like polar opposites, but they were best friends. Just through some random events that you learn about in the book, and that they became friends and care about each other a lot. So Jack is devastated. And Jack also lost his father when he was a freshman in high school. So, he takes it especially hard and just doesn't understand. But one of the kids at the school, that's one of Jack's friends, kind of suggests that maybe there was something off about the whole thing, and maybe it wasn't a suicide. And so from then on, Jack tries to investigate the murder by himself, because the police they're very convinced that it was just straight up, suicide. But Jack begins to take it upon himself to try and investigate if it was actually a murder of his best friend.
Okay. All right. That's very interesting, because I can definitely identify with that a little bit. I did know kids on, of course, both sides of that, so that's very interesting. Kind of like there's like a lot of a touch of classism in there, in these two kind of classes. That's very interesting. That reminds me a lot of that movie Us by Jordan Peele. Is a newest movie. Yeah, so that kind of brings that up a little bit because that deals with classism and stuff. So they got the kind of have and have nots. So okay, so then Too Close for Comfort, and then Close Enough is the third book, correct?
Yes, which is a direct sequel to Too Close for Comfort. It takes place like a year after everything that happens in the first book, which I won't spoil. And basically, as Jack and his friends start to enter college, I can't really go too much into it without spoiling the first book. So basically, there's just another murder of somebody kind of close to Jack. But this is definitely a clear-cut murder, and it's not like, maybe this happened, maybe it didn't. So this time around, it is just Jack and his girlfriend, Alyssa Jackson, and Emily Harper, who is Alyssa's friend, and then one of their friends, Aman Samara, who all start to investigate the murder of someone that's close to all four of them. So,
okay. Interesting. So it sounds like if you're friends with Jack, you might need to take up life insurance.
Pretty much, yeah. And luckily, there is a third book in that series, which I don't know if I made this clear before, but the Platinum Briefcase and Too Close for Comfort and Close Enough don't have any connection really. But there is kind of an Easter egg if you read all three books, or at least Platinum Briefcase and Too Close for Comfort. There is kind of an Easter egg that they are kind of in the same world.
Okay.
Yeah, but there is a third book which I don't know the ETA on when it would come out. My publisher's reviewing it right now, but it's called Closer Than Expected. So I tried to keep close in each title, but that kind of deals with a little something a little different other than just another murder. So
right, I got you. It's almost like go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just trying to not cough into the microphone. Go ahead.
Oh, sounds good. Okay. Yeah, because I kind of did think about that, and I was just like, man, am I dumb or something that I just keep like that Jack, or not that I'm dumb, but am I just not creative if I'm just going to have them keep finding dead people pretty much? But anyway, yeah.
I got you. Okay, so the Platinum Briefcase kind of deals with a little bit of a power struggle. The main character is, should I, listen to a family friend, become a police officer, or should I, kind of help my new friend and then kind of get into this life of crime? And then, of course, the Too Close for Comfort, Close Enough, and the fourth book is they all deal with the character Jack and kind of him going from high school and stuff with his friend committing suicide, but maybe it's not a suicide. Goes into like a clear-cut murder mystery, and of course the events of the third book. So basically, everyone needs to go out there and buy all four books because they're in quarantine and they need to read all of them. Right?
There you go. Yeah, with the fourth being there's a catch actually. Sorry, I should have brought up the third Jack Sampson because it's not even out yet. But so my bad there. But
okay.
Yeah.
So there's another book called There's a Catch.
There's a catch, yes. So that one was a self-published effort through Amazon because my publisher is a lot more focused on the Jack Sampson series, and I had already gotten some early reviews from people that they were like, "Hey, this is a good book, and I'd really like to see it in print and everything." And so I had people that were very interested in going ahead and getting that next book, and I didn't want to just send them out like PDF files. So, but there's a catch. Man, I almost blanked. Sorry. Yeah, there's a catch. There's a catch is kind of I don't know I don't really want to compare it to anything because I don't want people to think I just rip something off, but it's basically just the story of I guess if you took out the middleman with the Platinum Briefcase, if you took out the police chief kind of, or actually, if you took out Victor and you just had like police chief versus gangster son. But anyway, there's a catch. Is it's a adult thriller and drama mystery kind of all thrown together, and it deals with Michael Coltrane, who is he works at a bank. And he does like some data analysis kind of stuff in the back office. And he just kind of lives a life like by himself. And he's not, he's trying to find a girlfriend and, just kind of some stuff like that, in his mid-20s. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there's this man, Sebastian Myers, who is like a stone cold criminal in his 40s. And basically, the book is about, in a weird turn of events, they end up having to live together. While Sebastian Myers is on the run, and he relies on Michael to basically, harbor a fugitive. And anyway, well, Michael knows that it's not something that can just go on forever. And Sebastian, because Michael works at the bank, kind of makes up an idea of they both come together and make an idea of how they can like maybe make some money together is all I'll say.
Okay, interesting. Is this so the there's a catch. Is it the backstory to John Coltrane before he started doing jazz and
I was definitely like considering changing that name, but I mean, sometimes I guess the weird thing with my writing is like, I just have a name for a character pop up and, unless if it's just really bad, I'm like, well, I'll change it. But Michael Coltrane, I was like, I just don't want to, stray from that. I don't know why.
That sounds like a cool guy. He sounds like he owns a nice bomber jacket and, so no, like I totally dig it. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. No, man, that's really cool though, man. I had wrote a little in high school, and I'll write some sorts short stories, or I'll write a little bit, and then I won't like it, and then I'll delete it, and then and then we'll start that whole process. So there's kind of like a book that I had considered writing, but I can't get past like the first few chapters before like I just scrap the whole idea, go back to it. So that's been like the last 2 years. So, but yeah, so I commend you for actually writing. Well, I guess technically what there would be 6, because there would be the Platinum Briefcase, Too Close for Comfort, Close Enough, and then the third book in that series. And then there's a patch, and then okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. All of those there. And yeah, several books from when I was in high school that needed to be, reevaluated, and I kind of need to extend because, by the time I hit like page 120 for most of those books when I was in high school, I was pretty worn out because I would handwrite books like while I was in class after I got to work. But yeah, I always had the next idea, and still to this day, that's the problem I have.
Right, now I got you. Well, that's even more commendable. That's your handwriting. Whenever I'd write short stories or poetry or whatever, I want to sound, I want to tell people that I handwrite stuff, but honestly, I just do everything on my phone. So.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, you want to sound like a purist, I write everything by hand, and then they call you on it, and then you're like, oh yeah, well, maybe I do it on my phone, and then I'll do it on my laptop. So yeah, but no, that's so what and we had spoke earlier, what you had mentioned earlier. You had mentioned earlier, rather, sorry, that you started writing when you were 6 or 7, and then kind of as early as you can remember. Was there one author, was there one series that kind of helped you become a better writer? Like, was there a book that you had read that had challenged you to become a better writer?
Oh man. Not when I was that young, and I feel like, I mean, because I guess kind of like when I was 6 or 7. I mean, I just had this desire. Like, I don't know why, but I had this desire to pick up a pen or pencil and just like scribble something on paper. And I have this like faint memory of sitting at a roll top desk that was at my the house I first ever lived in. That I was born into. And I remember just kind of scribbling nonsense, but like in my head, I had this story. But I would say, now I hate to say this one because, I know it's mandated by most schools anyway, but I would say The Great Gatsby kind of, and I mean, like The Outsiders when I was in middle school, and the Hatchet was another great one about like survival, and I think the Hatchet when I was in 6th grade we read that, and that was just so interesting for a character to be alone and you're still invested and you care, because the compliment I always get is that people are like, man, you write really great dialogue, and I'm like, oh, thanks, but I just bow my head to people, or for that book, The Hatchet, because I don't know, like, it's just hard, it would be very difficult for a character to be all by themselves and you still write a story that's just a page turner, and you're just so interested in it. So I would say that one when I was in 6th grade kind of made me think like, okay, there's ways to move a story along without it just being a bunch of dialogue, but I still do try to make my books pretty dialogue heavy. And then when I was in high school, I would say it was The Great Gatsby because there was such a big tonal change. Not to ruin that book, but when a certain person gets killed towards the end. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like that book really just made me think like, wow, okay, like that's how you handle that. Like if, because the beginning of the book is all like party and everybody's having a good time and, roaring 20s, blah, blah, blah. And I got annoyed by the book when I first started reading it because I just thought, okay, is that all this is? But, then when that shift happens at the end, like, and then it just feels like a different book all of a sudden. That definitely inspired me, I feel like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and I remember vaguely remember reading The Great Gatsby. I don't think that I finished it. I do remember. I do remember The Hatchet though.
Oh yeah,
with Gary Paulson. So
Gary,
that was
okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm glad I didn't say his name because I was going to say Brian, and I was like, that's not right. I think Brian. But
no.
Gary Paulson.
Gary Paulson. Well, there was a kid that I went to elementary school with the same name. His name was Gary Paulson, but he wasn't really. Yeah, he wasn't related to the author, and so I just remember that what was interesting was I had a teacher at that time who read that book, and he crafted a hatchet. So he was kind of he would read us the book. Yeah, he would read us the book, and then he would kind of show us what you could do with the hatchet and what that character would how he would use that one tool, for survival and everything else. So it was kind of cool. It was a really neat insight into the book. So it kind of made you even more invested, So then, so it's kind of the mundane things, but also when the character is, having to fend off wolves and all that stuff. So it really kind of ties you in. And it is very much about survival. There's also that book, the short story by Jack London, To Build a Fire, which is, for me, like I absolutely love that story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or you've read it, but I definitely recommend that as well as Hatchet, because Hatchet's an easy read.
Oh, definitely, yeah. No, I might have missed that one with the fire. I really hate to admit this as an author, but I really don't read too much. I'm usually,
Well, I mean,
I'm usually. Oh, sorry.
No. What I was going to say is, I mean, if you're proofreading and you're writing and you're going through all these motions, yeah, no, I don't blame you. I used to be an avid reader in high school. And then, it's kind of continued a little bit into adulthood. But I think you mentioned murder mystery. Excuse me, you mentioned murder mystery, which I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of true crime, murder mystery. So I use, when I had cable, the only channel I would ever watch was the investigative discovery. And then I would just kind of like watch that, like women who kill and killer families and all this stuff. And so documentaries about cults but one book that I'm reading currently and I recommend to everybody is called The Open Kern, and it's by Brian Evanstein. Sorry. And it's it's a great book, murder mystery book. Not going to ruin anything, but it kind of goes into a lot of the secret history about. Excuse me. Secret history about the. Excuse me, 1 second. I'll edit that part out.
Okay.
Sorry, I was trying to eat on the way over here to my mom's, and I think I still have something in my throat.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll pick up from there. So the book, The Open Curtain by Brian Everson, is murder mystery, but it also goes into like the history of the Mormon Church and their practices. And as someone that grew up in the Mormon Church, I was very very interested in that. So if you are a former Mormon, or you're a current Mormon, or you're just interested in the church, or if you want to read a great murder mystery, check out The Open Curtain. And check out Henry's books as well, all 4 of them.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. I recommend them.
Yeah, they're recommended by Henry Cline and Henry Cline's family, extended family.
Yes.
There you go. His mom will send you a signed copy. She'll forge his name. No, not really.
There you go. Yeah, at www.thehenrycline.com, you can get them signed by me when you order them from there. So with all this social distancing, we don't have to be face to face. You can get a signed copy sent straight to your home.
There you go. And how much? What are they listed at? How much are they?
Sure. I believe. I think Too Close for Comfort and Close Enough are both 20 each, and that includes shipping and taxes and the signature and everything. And then Platinum Briefcase and There's a Catch, I believe, are both 25 a piece, which includes all those same things again.
Awesome. So for just a flat $20 bill or $25, you can get that book. You don't even have to pay anything extra, and you'll get them signed by Henry Cline. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and kind of transitioning here, how many of the like book signings or meet the author have you done?
Well, back when Too Close for Comfort was first self-published, I did a lot. I did, Barnes & Noble was super friendly, half-price books. What I ended up doing actually was I did like a half-price books tour because they have several stores in Texas. So I actually, packed my bags and got my lasso and I went down there. And did a bunch of signings there. And when the Platinum Briefcase came out, there were several signings here in Oklahoma. And when Too Close for Comfort and Close Enough came out, I also started doing signings in Texas and in Oklahoma. So yeah, and once things kind of are able to pick up again, I definitely plan to hit the road again, and hopefully go. I have a really ridiculous map drawn out of like a tour I would like to take, where I go like Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado. Just do like a big square and try to cover as much ground as I can. So that'll happen one of these days. Yeah, so I've done, I don't know an exact number. I'd say like maybe just a little less than 100, maybe. For the past three years.
So you've done a lot. It's safe to assume.
Oh yeah, and just anyone that'll have me, I'll try to go there. I've done them at coffee shops, bookstores, cupcake shops, bakeries. I've just had them all over the place. Outside, at different like.
What's the like oddest place or weirdest place that you've done one of these at?
Oh man. Luckily, none of them have been too bad or anything like that. I wouldn't say bad's the right word, but I would say. Now, the only reason I say this one, I just want to preface, I do not dislike Jones, Oklahoma, but all I'm going to say is they do this thing called the Jones Festival, and I went to that, and the only reason I say that was strange, because they do lawnmower races.
Okay.
Like straight down, like just down the main road, and it's these souped up, crazy, just maniacal, almost Mad Max-esque vehicles, and they just fly. I mean, like they're going like 0 to 60 in, I don't know, 6 or 7 seconds. No, I'm just kidding. It's like they have jet engines on basically. But the reason I bring that up is like, so I was trying to sell books, and then you're hearing like these engines, running super loud, and this. Now, before I say the next part, I do want to say the lawnmowers had the blades removed from them, luckily, but this kid got run over, or like one of the lawnmowers spun out and went into a big group of people, and there was this kid sitting down like crisscross applesauce, and it just domed him, and that was really traumatic. And everybody was like, "Okay, the festival's over." Thanks for everybody coming. And I packed up all my stuff, and I remember there was also this weird cellist guy there, and the cops walked up to him and they were like, "Dude, if I have to tell you one more time, you need to get out of here. This is, public property, and you're bothering people." And he was like, "I'm sorry, mister, I'm really sorry." And he like packed up his cello and like was sobbing. And he was like, "I'm not going to arrest you. I'm just telling you to get out of here right now." And he like slowly packed up his stuff. And it was just a mess. Like, I mean, the beginning of it was fine. Like we were just sitting there and it was hot. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I was talking to people, and getting business cards from people trying to sell me soaps that they had made. And, and it was like a bunch of nice people and everything. But yeah, I mean, it just ended in a disaster. Like the kid got run over, and then like everybody was like, "Oh, this sucks," and people were vomiting from the donut eating contest, and then the cellist was crying because the police officer was being mean to him, and I was like, man, I don't know. It was just, now that I'm remembering it clearly, I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll just go ahead and throw them under the bus and say that was.
That's okay. That's okay. That's interesting.
The kid's okay.
Okay. Well, good.
I remember they had to like, the guy ran over him, and so the lawnmower was on top of the kid, and then they were like, "Well, do I back it up or do we just pull the kid out?" they couldn't figure that out for a little bit. But I remember they pulled him out, and he like had a Sunny D in his hand and just like a big welt on his forehead, and he was like, "Oh, okay, everybody, I'm okay." So.
I'm sorry. That's amazing. That's
yeah. Well, that's a true story. I have people who can corroborate it. So.
Well, You really summed up Oklahoma there. No,
Yeah.
yeah. So to anyone listening outside of Oklahoma, that's Oklahoma. No, I
Oh,
actually have a story. I have a story about a lawnmower as well.
oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say his name because he's a good friend of mine. Love him to death.
Sure.
But he and his wife, when they got married in the municipal court building. So the municipal court building of this town is basically just a big auditorium, and it's where they have a community hall, and they have like fundraisers and have concerts, and they just have just a litany of this kind of a grab bag situation of everything, just kind of like a litany of different events. So he and her, rented this place out, and they were going to have their wedding in there. So we show up and everything, and I'm not. A casual wedding is fine. That's cool. It's
Sure, yeah.
I'm not getting married, so it's fine. So I guess the thing was, it was like wear your favorite band shirts. So, people were there in t-shirts and stuff, and
Okay.
yeah, and there were people not wearing shoes, and some people that looked,
Homie.
looked like, yeah, they did. They looked like they didn't practice hygiene very well.
Okay.
So I'm not, but love you, buddy, if you're listening. But so I show up because prior to that, one of my really good friends, I'll say his name, one of my really good friends, John Bomboy, got married. And so he and his wife, Jenna, they got married in Sulphur. It was this really nice occasion. I went with a friend of mine. Me and her went, and I wore like a nice suit. That was a great wedding. The reception was excellent. They had like salmon and tapia. They had just really nice occasion.
Wow.
So so like less than a month or two later, I go to this place, the municipal court building, and we're hanging out and stuff. And all this is going on, and then that's fine, but I'm still in like a suit, like, full suit. And like my buddy is there, my buddy Logan, Kyle Wood is there. And then the same friend that went with me to the John's wedding, Stephanie is there with me. We're all hanging out and stuff. And we're experiencing this go on, this wedding. And so after, before anyone got married, this dude rolls up, and he's in this it looked like an old lawnmower, but it was one of those Rascals. It looked like a small kind of zero turn lawnmower, but it was like a Rascal. And he said, hey, he said, I just bought this. You want to see how fast I can go? And immediately somebody stood up and they said, well, yeah, and not only that, but I'm going to time it just to see how fast you can go. So this man drove around the entire building on the inside and was doing laps, and they were timing him. And everybody, and then they were like, oh, whatever the time was, 27 seconds. And in celebration, he did a spin in the lawnmower Rascal situation. And it was fist pumping, doing finger guns.
Nice.
And I thought, yep, this is home. And so then and it was fine. But after that, after the wedding, they busted out these fold-out tables, those plastic fold-out tables, and they sprawled out this fried chicken, which I partook in, and that was some of the best. Yeah, that was some of the best fried chicken I've ever had. It was amazing, and it was a really nice, situation. It was just a little weird, little rough start, but yeah. So I always will fondly remember that of this grandpa. Yeah, this taking laps, and then but and then they had then they had a concert afterwards, and it was fine. But
oh, cool.
yeah, so little grab bag for everybody.
Sure.
But so kind of transitioning here, in addition to being the pride of Mustang, Oklahoma, you also play music. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, I sure do. Electric guitar. Yeah.
How old were you when you started playing music?
So I always say this, but I always give the long version of things because I have authoritis. But basically, I'll try to sum it up real quick. But anyway, so when I was 7, my father bought my brothers and I, or me and my brother. Gosh, I'm an author. Come on now. Anyway, he bought me and my brothers an electric guitar, a bass, and a drum set. And I was supposed to actually play drums, but I had no idea what I was doing. And YouTube wasn't prevalent in 2001, so I had no idea how to play a drum set or anything. I would actually lean back and use a stick against the bass drum because we didn't know how to set up the kick drum. So,
okay.
So that was pretty sad. But anyway, yeah. So I took it a lot more seriously when I was 12, and I gravitated towards the electric guitar because why wouldn't someone want to play that?
Okay.
So when I was 12, I actually took lessons and got more into it. Like when I was 7, my cousin taught me a few chords and the guitar wouldn't stay in tune, so I didn't really keep interest. But when I was 12, this new awakening happened, and it was just I really want to play guitar, so I started playing electric guitar when I was 12.
Awesome. And how old were you when you started doing shows, concerts and gigs and such?
Sure. Embarrassingly, I mean, it was a lot later, really. I had a band in high school. We played the talent show in 9th grade, and then in 10th grade we were the one band that didn't get into Battle of the Bands because, yeah. Anyway, but basically it was just Christian metal, or if you played an acoustic guitar or a piano, but then we were playing rock music and it just didn't fit, I don't think. So they were just we don't really want them to be a downer in the show. But yeah, so yeah, I didn't play any gigs until, I'm trying to think. I think I was 19 or 20, and I went out to Iron Tree Coffee Company in El Reno. Shout out. Great coffee, great service, great times. That's not their motto, but I'll just throw it out there.
It is now.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, they were nice enough. I had a mutual friend, not a mutual friend with you, I'm sorry, but just a random friend that I wasn't super close to, but she was just hey, we're looking for musicians to play music, and we need some acoustic acts, and just come on out here, bring your guitar and play for an hour, and we'll give you $1 or $2, and you can collect tips and all that. So that was a lot of fun, and I did that for I think 2 years, and sounds about right, because then I was trying to lead up to when I was 21 so I could maybe play a bar or a club or something, even though a casino lets you come in when you're 18, but a lot of people were just no, oh, you have to be 21, or you have to have your legal guardian be hanging out or whatever. So yeah, so I was kind of a late starter on that, and yeah, around 20-ish.
Okay. Do you remember the first show that you played where you felt kind of okay, I'm getting pretty good at this, or you got enough feedback that you kind of felt validated that you should be there, type of thing?
Sure. Yeah. Well, out of that coffee shop, I definitely I don't know, the older generations loved me, I feel because my music wasn't too, intense or like too modern, I guess. Like I feel like I have kind of an older sound with my music. So a lot of those people would just congratulate me and say like, hey, I really like that song that you just did, and I would play a lot of originals, which, some people say is like poison, and that people want to hear covers so they can kind of sing along and feel familiar with what you're playing. But I would play originals and people would be like, hey, that's a really good song, and definitely the turning point, I think I was 22, I believe. Yeah, I think I was 22, and it was kind of a nightmare scenario, but a guy I went to high school with, and then a younger guy that we all went to the same high school, I was just itching to do a show for like a younger crowd, like people around my age. Because with the El Reno coffee shop, like I always had people that were kind of older. But anyway, so I was like, I really want to play for people around my age and see what their reaction is. And, this was a nightmare scenario because, since we all three went to the same high school, it was a ton of people I knew from high school that were like kind of popular or whatever. And now I'm going to have to sing in front of them. And even though I did like the talent show in 9th grade, we didn't sing when we did that. We just did like a little instrumental version of Higher Ground by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, originally by Stevie Wonder. But yeah, anyway, so none of them had heard me sing. And a lot of people used to make jokes because they were like, oh, you're so monotone, like you definitely can't sing. And so that was scary. And I was like, well, now I'm going to have to sing in front of all these people who think that I have the most boring voice and all that. But, then I would play a song and they would all clap and say like, yeah, that's a good song, or whatever. So that was definitely a feeling of, being validated by, that group of like, not that my high school class was like the worst group of people ever, but, you do, you're scared that you're going to like pee your pants or something, or, do something embarrassing, like, in all those nightmare scenarios. And, this ended up being okay. I was like, okay, well, they really like me.
I gotcha. Well, very cool, man. That's awesome. And do you have any music out, like on Spotify or any physical copies or anything like that?
All the above. Yeah. So my album is Resilience, and it came out in 2016. And that was my debut album, recorded here in Oklahoma City. And so that went, that's on iTunes, Spotify, just any streaming platform, free or not. And it's available there. I do have physical copies as well. And those can be purchased from my website, thehenrycline.com. I think there's a link that then takes you to my Bandcamp, but those physical copies for those CDs is $10. So just 10 buckaroos and you can get a CD, and shipping's included and everything.
Awesome. Very cool. So people can go to thehenrycline.com and they can buy a book and they can buy your CD and they can listen to the music. And then later on, when they're getting ready for bed, they can read your book.
There you go.
Yeah. So magical evening. You can set the mood with Henry Cline's music. And then after your partner goes to sleep, you can read a couple of chapters of one of his awesome books.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, and then there's and then there's 2 other singles that I have out as well, that are all on streaming platforms and such. So
okay. Well,
plenty to choose from.
Right. Well, we can actually I can actually put a song at the end of this episode. So if there was a song, what would the song that you'd recommend?
Probably the very last track from Resilience, which is called I Left My Heart in San Angelo, which is a city in Texas where my father's parents grew up. Or, well, not grew up, but they, lived out their lives there. And it was just kind of like a magical place that I always had very fond memories of going to. And there was a lake and all that kind of fun stuff. So
awesome.
I would say...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, yeah, that would be the one that I would say is kind of a good, middle ground for what my music's like.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely include it at the end of this episode. I Left My Heart in San Angelo by Henry Cline at the end of this episode. So stick around for that. So kind of as we're wrapping up here, though, where can people find you? Are you on Spotify, Facebook, all that good stuff?
I sure am. Yeah. My Twitter handle, Instagram, Facebook, like page, all of that is the Henry Cline. I tried to streamline that when I launched the website last year. Excuse me. But I tried to streamline that to everything. And I'm on Spotify, Pandora, I believe, or I don't know if that's how that works exactly. iTunes Music, all the above. Unfortunately, my books are not available on the iTunes equivalent of ebooks, but they're available on Amazon, and my website has plenty of links of where you can get everything. And every major book retailer or music store, you should be able to order all my books and CDs there.
Awesome, great. And are you on Instagram, or you mentioned Twitter, but are you on Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, sorry, all the above.
Okay.
Facebook, Twitter, not Tumblr. Sorry, it's always confused me. But yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter with the Henry Cline as the @ or www.facebook.com/thehenrycline, and you'll find me.
Awesome. All right. Well, and as always, you can find me at the Needless Potatoes Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, all the streaming sites except for Apple, just because they won't return my emails. So that's very true. They actually won't. So, but that's okay though. You can find it everywhere else. And you can follow us on Instagram if you'd like. You can follow us on Facebook. You can send us all your questions and concerns and comments. Please give us a review on any of those streaming sites. They would be muchly appreciated. And and definitely go to thehenrycline.com. Buy this man's book. Buy his CDs. Follow him. Follow him on Instagram. Like him on Facebook. Other great stuff. You already know what to do. You're smart people. But Henry, I really appreciate you sitting down and talking with me. I know that we've been trying to work this for a little bit, so I definitely appreciate your time.
Yeah, I very much appreciate yours as well, Jesse. And this was a lot of fun. And I'm sorry for all the delays in the meantime, but I'm glad we work it out. And I had a lot of fun, and hope you did too.
I did. Yeah, I got to hang out in my mom's apartment while I recorded this. So shout out to Mom.
Hey.
But, yeah, there you go. But all right, well, everybody, we'll talk to you later. You guys stay safe. Please practice social distancing. Wash your hands. Wear your face masks. All that great stuff. And you guys stay safe. We love all of you. And bye-bye, everybody.
He was a mysterious man, one I never know. She was a goner before she could really be shown. To go there, especially as a kid. I love to take the boat out, though they forbid. I'd fish for a while, hoping I could find something on that dense island, something in my mind. I left my heart in San Angelo, which left a burn so intense. The sorrow I feel now is so immense, you can't even imagine it. She was an organ donor with the prices hard. He knew he loved her right from the start. I just hope one day I can find that love